Hey, this is Cameron, and welcome to the practice log. Alright, well, it's another morning session, so let's go ahead. I don't know what that was, sorry. I'm sorry, that was a weird thing that I just did. I apologize for that. Please don't think that I'm weird. Let's go to the chair, shall we? In making these logs, I'm always encountered with a weird thing, which is, this is a practice log, right? So the whole purpose of this is for me to get better at guitar and to document that journey. But I can't help but notice how much more views I get when I make videos about Segovia or John Williams or Julian Bream. It's a thing. You have to admit that it is a thing. You always see those videos blow up. And then when I make a video about Boss Rutan or anybody else, or today's video topic, which is going to be Miriam fried, they don't really do as well, which is unfortunate because those videos all take the same exact amount of work. So there is a clear one that I could keep making that would bring in more views, you know, because that like feels good. Like I can pretend like I don't care about the views and all that, but I like views. Views are cool. When a video like pops off, I'm like, okay, this is like dopamine. So, you know, it's a weird thing, but I really feel that this video on Miriam fried is going to be very important for my development of the Siciliana, and it might even be important for your development of whatever you're working on. I know that there's some violinists, friends of the channel out there, so you'll see your instrument. Isn't that exciting? Whoa. Not only will the Miriam fried video probably not get as many views as Segovia, I also had to pay money for this masterclass. I paid $25 for this masterclass. This one's a money hole, but it's gonna be really good for my development, so we're doing it. Okay, that was a whole rant just to start this thing off. Main focus for today will be the Presto. I've played through the whole thing. There's no more new music in the Presto, but I just need to get it down and get it memorized. The Adagio and Siciliana, they're so close. The Adagio is a lot closer. The Siciliana, a little bit further away, but I can play through it. I can play it. Things get a little shaky towards the end. I'll work on that today. And then that Soar Mozart variation, I just need to bang that thing out slow. Bang it out slow. Never forget that. That's always best. So, I've been taking this time to answer comment questions, so let's take a look at the comments section. Took my caffeine pill, guys. I'm usually kind of sedated, but I feel a little more alert right now. It is later in the day, too. Okay, this is one that I wanted to address. So, this is from Steven Bornfeld, friend of the channel. Hey, how's it going? So, you started off talking about Boss Rutan. Classic. Love to see that. Boss Rutan is what all the guitar recitals I've seen have been missing. Really? That's what is missing? Dude, where's the MMA guy? Get him out here. I've been listening to this recital for 30 minutes, and nobody's gotten attacked yet. Artists need a volunteer from the audience. Oh, okay, I see. I wonder what you would, volunteer in a guitar recital. I just love that opening sentence. This is what the recitals are missing. On another topic, maybe you could explain every time you run a piece at full speed, as if you're performing it, you are degrading it in some way. Yeah, I would love to go further into that. That's something that I really believe and that I get excited about. I'll go ahead and just like try to paint a picture for you. Think back to a piece that you have that's really solid, that you haven't really played slow in a while. I certainly have pieces like that. Like the Soar Mozart variation is kind of one of those pieces. That's why I need to practice it slow and like repair it. But take that piece that you haven't played slow in a while, and I challenge you to set your metronome to 45 BPM and play that sucker and see how it goes. And you'll find that, especially if you really haven't played it slow in a while, you're not going to be able to make it through. Things are going to become fuzzy. Like, I'm not like a neuroscientist or anything, but I can kind of guess what this might be. We chunk to memorize pieces. So we take these big groups of notes and we chunk them into certain ideas. And that's fine and dandy, especially if you're using theory for chunking, because I feel like you can always trace back what you're thinking when you use theory. We're essentially using scales and arpeggios and these rules that we have set for music, and there's not really that many rules for music. You can just kind of expand on them though. The issue really comes down when you start chunking using things like shapes, even your ear sometimes. And when I say shapes, I mean like actual shapes on the guitar. Like you always hear that, shapes, right? Chunking using those strategies, that's when things start to fall apart. Because what's a shape? Like, how did you come to this shape, and is there a logic behind chunking with this shape? And the answer is no. It's just arbitrary shapes to the fretboard of the guitar. And that's really the difference between like John Mayer music theory and then actual music theory. I've mentioned John Mayer music theory before. John Mayer music theory is all about shapes and boxes and stuff, which are arbitrary and you can forget because there's no logic to actually arrive at them. And then music theory is not arbitrary. There's a logic to arrive to it, so you'll never forget it because you can always reverse it and see how you arrived at it. which that's sort of a separate point. Now, my point with the whole, like, running it at full speed, it's really hard to think about the logic and reasoning of your memory while you're playing a really hard piece really fast. So the more you play that piece really fast, the more you're just gonna develop muscle memory based around shapes and, like, patterns and sound, and the less you're gonna be thinking about the note-to-note relationship, which I think that relationship, that is the key to memory. The most important thing and the most underrated thing for memory is scales and arpeggios. I feel like we might not talk about scales and arpeggios as much here. If anybody ever has a question about how I memorize so much stuff, it is scales and arpeggios and understanding functional harmony. That is how I do it. I guess what I'm trying to say is when you run it at full speed, it's hard to actually think through the relationships note by note. I kind of have three different perspectives when I'm looking at a piece of music, and I'm going to use the analogy of a piece of music as like a forest right now. So there are three different ways we can look at it. First way is like helicopter view, like we're a drone just looking at the whole thing. We're not pointing out each individual tree, but we're looking at each group of trees, and we're thinking through it that way. So that's when I think through the fugue in like 30 seconds. And I'm trying to see like as much of it as possible and just move forward. And in doing that, I am going to miss stuff, but I'll get the general idea of each theme. The second way is you're sprinting through the forest, looking at each tree, trying to get them all. You're probably going to miss some. I consider that as like the performance. That is you performing the piece, actually. You're sprinting through it, trying to get everything. Here's the thing. If you do that and you're performing it and you miss a tree once, when you perform it again, you might miss that tree again, and you might just forget about that tree. You don't even know to look over there, and that tree is now gone to you. And then the third way is actually taking a walk through the forest and truly looking at each note, making sure everything is there, and having the sheet music as well. That's a nasty habit that a lot of people develop, and I'm guilty of that too. Just never looking at the sheet music again. Even if you're really solid with a piece, go back to the sheet music and read through it slow with a metronome. Make sure all that's coming out. So that third way, where you're just walking through and looking at each individual tree and truly scanning, even in the blank spaces, to make sure you didn't miss anything, that is when you're really setting the foundation for the piece, for the next run through that you're gonna do. I'm just full of analogies, aren't I? So there's the forest. So you just want to be sure to look at a piece from all three of those perspectives. And I find that it's kind of natural for musicians in general to forget about the first one. That is when they get in a rut of the piece never getting better and slowly forgetting it over time and only relying on muscle memory and shapes and patterns and stuff. That's not enough for me. And if you really want to be a hero, get some manuscript paper and write it down without looking at it. Just use your memory and write down every single note. Hopefully that's something to kind of chew on. It's a good question. I like talking about that. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them. That goes for anyone too. Or if you want me to expand on a previous thing that I said, I can try to do that as well. I'll try to be as coherent as possible. I'm sure me editing this is all pissed off now because I have to edit this convoluted story time thing. But that's the future me, and the present me gets to practice some Bach. So let's go ahead and do that. Bachalicious Bach time. Bach-y poo. Ow, I stubbed my toe. Oh, my toe. My beautiful little toes. I'm gonna start with the Bach. I'll see you on the other side. Alright, I think I'm about done. So how about this? Since we're gonna watch a thing on the Siciliana today, I will just go ahead and play the Siciliana for you so you can get a baseline for where we're at, and then we'll see after the thing if it's any different. Whoa! Come on over. Alright, so here's where we stand as of today. There's obviously some things that need to be worked out, towards the end especially, but we are going to work on our interpretation with Miriam Fried. Miriam Fried, let's do it. She's been featured before, but we are finally going to see the full version of the masterclass. We're gonna go through this whole sucker. Y'all ready for it? Introducing Miriam Fried.
So, unlike the first two movements, third...
Also, are we in a mansion right now? Well, actually, we could be. So that's the thing with being a violin virtuoso now. I feel like it just doesn't get you a mansion like being a guitar virtuoso used to, you know? I don't know. Does Miriam Fried have a mansion? We'll look up where she lives later.
Movements are very different from one another, so we will talk about each one of them separately, and then after that we can compare. After the fugue, which is
the fugue,
demanding both for the performer and the listener.
Is it demanding for the listener? Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
It is natural that we need something of a different character. A simpler character, a more singing one, and certainly not as complicated polyphonically. Bach provides that for us. And I think that you could do a better job of really thinking of the function of...
Well, she hasn't even played yet. Hold on, this is part 1, right?
Singing and simple and beautiful and uncomplicated.
And there's nothing complicated about the Siciliana. I mean, let's just look at it. We got some uncomplicated music here. It's kind of like a folk song, like just very simple melody. I think Elvis sung this one, actually. What's complicated about that? What are you, stupid?
Desire to give me a lot of little details. You neglect a little bit the overall picture. So we have a movement in 12/8. And 12/8 is basically 4, right? So we have the 3 in each beat, but the overall structure of the movement is in 4. And so it would be really good if instead of having tom, pa, pum, ta, da, 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 dum, ta, dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, that you really did yum, ba-dum, dee-da-da-da, dim, dee-dum, bum, dee-dum, so that you have really 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 relatively is heavier than 2, but definitely lighter than 1. If you do that, I think you provide us with a better sense of the long line. So I would suggest less of that.
Isn't the violin a beautiful instrument? Alright, so we're in 12/8. Oh yeah, it is in 4. Alright, so the beats are divided into 3s, so... Oh, I kind of see what she means. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Hopefully you got that.
It has a dance-like character, but it is no longer in the 18th century a dance. Right? So the Siciliano is more like an aria or a canzonetta than it is a dance, right? So
no dancing to this, guys.
Can you start from the beginning and really think of it as being in 4? Distinguish in sound and articulation between melody notes and bass notes. Yes, okay. So there are several things. When you finish, make sure you play out the 4 notes. Don't... You almost didn't play the B flat.
I comment, that's what they had public. That's hilarious. You almost didn't play it. Like, she played it. Come on, Miriam.
Finish it.
Finish it.
Because the melody... Now, I know you don't have as much time as I took now, but you have more time than you think. Finish, get over there, and then this. And the F should be different like this. So 1. Because this has to go...
Okay, I see.
This is your bass, right, sir?
She's being hilarious, but she's kind of separating, like, you should make a deal that it's two different lines. Okay. I think I kind of get it. So just make a deal about the two lines. That's what I'm gathering there. That's important, right?
Right?
Right? Right?
No.
Yeah, alright, so this is a great one. She has really great energy. I hope you guys enjoy the Miriam Fried series that's going to be following, because I think it's going to be really good for me, and probably for you too, if you're playing similar music. You know, you get some premium content here. Lucky you, right? Well, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. I'm ready to start my day, maybe eat some lunch. Let's do it. All right, well, that was a pretty fun one. So we got to see a new character, Miriam Fried. We're going to see a lot of her because this is a long masterclass. Well, if you made it this far, be sure to subscribe, leave a like. And I just opened up 5 slots in my teaching schedule for any viewers who might want a lesson. If that's something you're interested in, check the channel description. I have information on how to contact me there. All right, and if you have any questions about anything, be sure to leave a comment and I'll answer it in the chair at some point. And yeah, all right, well, I'll see you tonight.